Thank you for joining us for live paranormal radio. From the paranormal to the unexplained, it all happens here. It all happens here. Looking to enhance your radio experience? Participate in our live video chat 24/7 with our live paranormal radio show hosts and other like-minded people. Live. Paranormal.com, the only interactive social chat room supported by Full Interaction Media. Stop by now and join the fun. Stop by now and join the fun.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show. Again, I want to remind people who are new to the Channeling Erik Hour of Enlightenment that Erik Medhus is my 20-year-old son, eternally 20, who died a few years ago and now is a spirit guide. And he helps people all over the world through his blog, Channeling Erik, and Erik is spelled with a K, by the way. And this radio show is intended to spread that Erik love and wisdom even further. So by reaching through the veil with the help of his spirit translator, the one, the only Kim Babcock, Erik is going to help you guys find answers, the answers you need to make your walk of life a little easier. So first he's going to share a little wisdom, and then he's going to accept questions from listeners. If you want to ask Erik something, give us a call, 619-639-4606. But first, let me introduce Kim. Kim, tell us about yourself and how people can connect with you.
Hello. Well, as many of you already know, I've been translating for Spirit for about 6 years, almost 7 years now. And, for me as a medium, I work through my clairvoyance, my clairaudience, and claircognizance to be able to connect with Spirit. So being able to connect with them in many ways and translate messages to help all of you guys move through your grief and make life a little easier for you. And through that, it's my absolute honor and privilege to be working with Erik to talk to all of you guys and answer your questions and provide you guys with guidance. So if you would like more information, please feel free to check out my website, and that's www.kimbabcock.net. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So let's get started. We have a really cool topic tonight, all about helping you guys deal with skepticism and moving past that skepticism, that block, to be able to maintain a connection with your loved one after they leave this physical world, and also to help you open up a little bit to new ideas, new beliefs, to kind of enrich your experience down here on Earth.
That's right. It allows so much more spiritual growth and development if you just put aside your skepticism and sort of, find the freedom in moving past your own doubts. That was a tough one. It took me 4 years to believe 100% that Erik still existed in another form, in another dimension, but I'm so glad I've arrived at this place. Erik, baby, I love you.
I love you, Mom. He says, I'm here.
I know you are. So the floor is yours.
He says, he just did a little drum roll for himself. He says, well, that's a good thing. He says, because I got a lot to say. He says, all right. He says, why don't we just jump right in and get started? He says, the whole reason why I want to talk about this is because a lot of people ask, how can I enrich my life with spiritual growth, or how can I maintain or even strengthen a relationship with my loved ones in the afterlife? And he says, I'm here to tell you, we got to face skepticism. We got to talk about it. We got to look at it from all different angles. Skepticism isn't just coming from the aspect of prove it. Rather, he says there's a whole lot that kind of falls under that umbrella. And one of the biggest things people need to look at, he says, when talking about skepticism, we also need to look at your attachments. people have expectations for things to happen certain ways. And that's when we decide to put up that block and kind of be a little bit skeptical about situations, events, even our loved ones. And was that really them? Did we really have that interaction, or is it just my imagination? So he says the whole reason for that is most of the time it's really hard for us to move past our own blocks of our own filters, wanting things to happen on our terms. People may be curious, but they're a lot of times not willing to move outside of their own skepticism. And again, what he's kind of showing me is that skepticism looks more like it's a filter. He says it's a block that people put up, and okay, I'm curious enough to kind of see what would happen here, but I still want it to be on my terms. He says, so and until you're really willing to let go of your own terms, you're not going to experience anything new or different. So it's really about letting go of those filters and letting go of that skepticism to truly move past and deepen, strengthen your relationship with your loved ones on the other side, or even allow new processes to come into your life, new ideas and traditions to enrich your life. So he stopped and he says, talk about freedom, Mom, how free it is to let go of your skepticism. He says, you know exactly what I'm talking about and exactly what that's like. So is this something you've experienced, I'm sure, Elisa, kind of letting go of that skepticism and the freedom in it?
You caught me chewing on a pulled pork pita. So, sorry, guys. I was on mute. But,
no, you're fine. He says, well, that's my mom.
But I'm starving. But, yeah, it took me a long time because, I was raised by atheists, okay? And I'm a physician, so everything was about science. And so, I was taught that you could not perceive it with your senses or measure it with an instrument. It did not exist. So it took me a long time to believe that even after all the pranks Erik played, and even seeing him in my bedroom, and even hearing him call me on the telephone, I still didn't 100%, agree. Believe. I thought, well, maybe 90% I'm there, but couldn't get to that 100% until I heard his voice on a recording, and I know my son's voice. That was him. We got it analyzed by a sound engineer who said it ain't a human voice. So that did it for me.
Wow. He says, and didn't you experience freedom in that moment when you kind of allowed your skepticism to dissolve and just fall into the belief?
Yeah, it was a wonderful sense of surrender, of letting go.
Yeah, and he says what people don't realize is holding on to that skepticism is just like holding on to pain that really isn't necessary. Even if it's going into an event and you're a little skeptical, you're not sure how the night's going to turn out, holding on to that apprehension and that skepticism, he says, is like holding on to pain. It's unnecessary. Let it go and allow yourself to experience and trust what you experience, trust what you feel in those experiences. And
it kind of reminds me of when you have a toothache, and all you want to do is just grit your teeth and feel it more. What's up with that?
God, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. He says because you shift your awareness. He says that's what it's all about. You shift your awareness. So if you can let go and just allow yourself to experience, he says, you'll find so much more freedom in that. But also you'll find enrichment. You'll be able to feel things. It's kind of like turning your senses on. He says having those guards up sort of diminishes or decreases your sensitivity to the environment around you. So when you let your guards down and let yourself be a little more vulnerable and sensitive, you're going to enrich your life in certain ways. And again, applying this to those of you, because I know there's so many of you out there who have asked, how do I strengthen my relationship with my loved one on the other side? How do I develop communication? And Erik says if you can find the freedom in letting go of skepticism completely, and even though a lot of us, he says, are spiritual thinkers, spiritual teachers, believers, doers, there's still a lot of you, he says, that calling you guys out, I guess, and, you know, myself included, I'm definitely in this group. They think, well, what was that? I'm not really sure what that was. And even though you might feel like it was your loved one or even feel like it was Erik, nah, it couldn't be. I don't really think it was. It was probably just the wind, just my imagination. He says, that, folks, is skepticism. He says, so allowing yourself to just trust what you feel, trust what you experience, and enjoy the freedom in that, and you'll see miracles happen. And he, like...
Well, is there any way that we can make that easier? That, you know, just letting go sounds easy, but it really isn't.
Yeah, he says it's not really that easy. He says there's no way to really make it easier. It's all about trust. He's just saying it's kind of like weaning away from skepticism and weaning into being able to trust. If you can trust yourself, then you can trust what you experience. He says, but it all starts with self. So he says, it's so funny. He's like, get ready to watch miracles happen as you let go of that apprehension. And he's very diligent about the way he's like nodding his head up and down. He's just funny. He doesn't have a hat on tonight, and his hair is very fluffy. He looks goofy. But I hope that you guys understand what he's saying, you know, because there are so many of you that have asked this, and it doesn't surprise me that, you know, that's what he's decided to talk about is, you know, how to move and navigate through the emotions that you experience to be able to really deal with grief, deal with different circumstances in life, and maintain that connection with your loved ones, you know, through the veil. So a lot.
That's awesome.
It's a quick, simple little message, but there's a lot of work involved emotionally, he says.
Absolutely. Anything else on that topic before we take calls from listeners?
He's just being real nonchalant. He's like, yeah, people just have to get, they have to be really honest with themselves emotionally, and a lot of times they turn away from that. So they think that their skepticism is justified. Well, yeah, but he says, don't worry about proving yourself to anybody or trying to prove an experience to anybody. Again, trust what you feel, trust what you know, and go on that. He says it doesn't matter about proving it because, again, going back to that skepticism and, okay, I had this experience, I want to share it, but they're going to be really skeptical. So he says that's a whole other can of worms called ego, but he says I don't feel like eating that for dinner tonight. He's so goofy.
Well, you know, a lot of times we do sort of believe, but then and we talk to our loved ones, you know, our friends or family members about it, and they're like, ugh, are you nuts? Or at the very least, we're afraid that if we share our stories, that they will, you'll undergo ridicule.
Exactly. He says, and that's the apprehension too. He says that I'm talking about the people, they're apprehensive to even trust what they experience because they're afraid of being judged. And once you finally let go of that, he goes, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if people think you're crazy? He says, as long as you know what you felt, there's power in that. There's truth to that, and that's something that you should hold sacred and value. He says, and don't worry, the others will come around.
I just tell people, hey, guess what? The earth is not flat. Because there was a time where people thought it was, and those people who said, no, it's round, underwent a lot of ridicule and then eventually scorn, and I think put in prison or whatever. But now, guess what? The earth is freaking round. And I think we're going through that phase, you know, as far as spirituality is concerned and consciousness survival is concerned.
He says we are, Mom. More and more people are becoming not only more curious, but more aware of their surroundings and more aware of the paranormal. And he just kind of scratched his head, raised his eyebrows really high. He goes, "Newsflash, I'm real." So
yes,
he's
you
like,
are. Thank God.
And he says He says, "Mom, it's funny to me how people still really can have, that solid belief that God hears me. God knows when I pray to God, He hears me. But yet they question that their loved ones hear them." He says, "It's the same thing." And he's being so blunt. He's like, "It's the same thing, people. You have to understand that the love that you create between you and your mom, you and your sister, you and your brother, that energy in that relationship is immortal. It's never going to go away." He says, so that's what survives physical death. He goes, "All right, I'm done lecturing." He kind of sat back. He's like, "I'm done lecturing."
All right, well, that was awesome, Erik. Let's go to our first caller then. Are you game, Erik?
I'm always game, he says.
Of course
Let's
you are.
do it.
Our first caller is from the 910 area code. Hi, how are you, and what is your name?
Hi, my name's Billy.
Hi, Billy.
I'm from
Where are you?
Lumberton, North Carolina.
Oh, I'm new
to the show.
Awesome. I was just watching the show, and I saw Casters, North Carolina, on this show on the DIY channel. It's beautiful over there.
Aw, lucky you.
What I was wanting to say was I was wanting to tell Erik that was similar to his death. I'm not bringing this up, but similar to his death, my mother died of a gunshot wound to the head about 35 years ago.
Oh,
and
goodness.
Ever since then, my life has been in flip flop, and I don't know where what's going or whatever, how it's going. I don't know if I'm on the right track or what. But I've been recently getting into angels and looking up angels on the internet and stuff, and getting involved in that. And I had a spirit chart, the alphabet chart that I was using with my pendulum, and I was wanting to know my spirit guide's name because the being that I was talking to on the chart.
Okay, Billy. So your question to Erik is, you're wanting to know the name of your spirit guide. Is that right?
Yes, the guy, the being that I was talking to on the chart, told me his name and said he was my spirit guide, but he was talking nice to me, and then all of a sudden he started talking mean and hateful to me, and I quit messing with it.
Ooh. Erik says, first of all, to tell you that anytime, no matter what kind of tools you use to connect with the non-physical, he says, set your intentions. Make that your routine. Make that your ground rule. Set your intentions. If your intentions are to connect to love and light beings, then that's all that you're going to experience. So he says you need to practice that. But as far as actually giving you a name for your guide, he's giving me, this is what Erik is spelling. It's Markus, and it just sounds like Marcus, but it's a very different spelling for that name. Erik says this is your primary guide. This is more of a permanent guide too. Erik says that he says there's temporary guides, there's permanent guides. It depends on what you're going through in life as far as who's working with you, how they're working with you, and when. But he says Marcus is a guide for you that's permanent. So think of it more of like a guardian angel. And then he's just going back to his previous message. He says he really encourages you to set your intentions before you get out a pendulum or anything like that. So if you want to connect to Marcus through the pendulum, make sure that is known. He says, whether you say it in your head or you say it out loud, it doesn't matter, but set your intentions and be very clear about that. So.
Okay, I was wanting to know. Okay, why am I crying? Just all of a sudden I just start crying for no reason. I've been doing it here a lot lately. I've done it twice today. I just tear up and cry for no apparent reason.
Erik is encouraging you to. Maybe you've already heard this term, but he's encouraging you to. Research what it means to be an empath. He says everybody's an empath. It's just to different degrees. Some people, the degree is 0. They don't feel much. Some people are extreme, he says. So empaths often experience that fluctuation in their moods, in their emotions. So he says just to kind of take a look at that and learn what that means, and also learn how to put structure to it, how to control it. And he says knowledge is power in this case. So know about setting your intentions. What was that, Elisa?
Yeah, let me say a little bit about intentions, if I hate to interrupt. But when I operate Erik's the e-board, this way one of the ways I communicate with Erik, I always say something like, God source, please surround me with the golden light of protection, and I name all the people that want to be present in this, and I always say all others are not welcome. And then
I usually say a protection prayer before I do it and a closing prayer.
Good.
But each time I do it, and this same person keeps coming on there talking to me, and nobody else won't come through.
Well, what can you do about that, Erik? Somebody's house crashing, party crashing.
Erik is kind of reiterating what he was saying, and then he says, try something new. So if you're not, he says it's just like Kim. She sucks at automatic writing, so it doesn't work for me. If you're not having success or even healthy communication with the pendulum, try something different. He says that just may not be aligning with your vibration in the way that you want it to connect with your guides or your loved ones. So he's saying there are so many things out there, so don't give up yet, but try something different. But again, it's really important to state your intentions, but also be in line with them. He says that's key. You can state something, but you have to also identify with it and be in line with it.
Well, do you think that he would be able to operate with somebody? Obviously, you have to have a partner to do this with. Your e-board, Erik, to communicate?
He says, yeah, I got your back. And he says that for anybody that's going to use the e-board, he says, again, it's state your intentions, but if anybody's going to be using the e-board, I'll be there. I'll make sure it's safe and a healthy communication, he says.
Okay.
Now,
is there anything that his mother can come forward and say that will provide some sort of healing for him?
Erik says, he says, oh, yeah, absolutely.
How many?
Erik is, he is going to speak for your mother, which really doesn't happen very often. Usually he'll bring them forward, but he's going to speak for her. And he says, for you, Billy, your mom wants you to know and understand that just like anybody that's lost somebody, she hasn't left your side. Erik says she wants you to know. She knows that her passing was quick. Her passing was, it wasn't felt. Erik says, he keeps shaking his head, no, she didn't feel it. She didn't, she doesn't really identify with that, and it's important. Like, she doesn't identify with the way that she passed, meaning she's not hung up over it. She's found closure with it. And Erik says that she wants the family to be able to find closure with it, because when they recall her memory, that's what they get hung up on, the way that she passed. It's really hard for them to see past her physical death and actually remember the life that she lived. And she just says, Erik says that she says, I don't want people to remember me for the way that I died. I want people to remember me for the way that I lived. So Erik says it's important to her that the family knows that and can begin to move past that, because she's found complete closure with it. So know that by him translating that for her, she's very much at peace and hoping her family can, because even after all these years, he makes me feel like they haven't kind of found closure with it and achieved peace with how she passed. Therefore, having a hard time remembering her before that, having a hard time remembering for the way she lived. So Erik says if there's anything she wanted to say, that's the biggest thing she wants to get through is remember me for how I lived, not how I died. Yeah. So I hope, Billy, that that helps. I hope that Erik's advice too with the pendulum and things kind of helps. Don't be afraid to just toss the pendulum and try something completely different.
Okay.
Until you find your niche.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for calling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
All right. I want to remind everybody that we are here thanks to liveparanormal.com. They allow us to be on the air, so we're so lucky.
Yes.
So thanks, liveparanormal.com and Rob, the producer. All right, let's take somebody from the 248 area code. Hi, this is Lisa. Who am I speaking with?
Dana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Where are you calling
from? I'm calling from Michigan.
Oh, is it cold up there?
No, first spring day. It was beautiful, so we're really
Awesome.
thrilled. Yeah,
awesome.
I'm super fans of all three of you. I've read or viewed pretty much everything you guys have done, so I'm really nervous right now, but
don't be nervous.
Just I'll try. My question is this, I'm going to try not to cry.
Oh, it's okay. I cry all the time.
I know.
We do. We're big criers. Don't worry about it.
My whole adult life, I've had these periods of just negativity, just a black hole that just brings me to my knees, and I can become hateful of people and anything really, and a voice. Oh, can you hear me? A voice just said muted and unmuted.
I think you cut out.
A voice just said muted and unmuted. So can you hear me?
No, we're good. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm just brought to my knees with this negativity. And, it could be depression, but I'm wondering if could it be anything else? Is it biochemical, spiritual? Is it a past life thing? I know Jamie Butler said I was empathic, and I don't know if is it just plain old depression? That's my first part of the question, or what is it? And then what can I do to get out of it faster? Because I do ask for help from Erik and other people.
Aww. Okay, well, he's actually saying a lot to you. The whole time that you're talking, he's responding. And he said that a lot of what you're feeling emotionally is largely due to the people around you. Now, that doesn't mean that you hang around negative people or you hang around bad people. What that means is to make it very simple and easy to understand, you need to ground yourself. Okay. Erik says he's like yelling and shouting. You need to be grounded. You need to ground yourself. So we'll go through that in just a second. But he says in fact, in building on what came through with Jamie, he says this he's saying the same thing, that being so sensitive to your environment, like an empath is, can very easily sort of uproot you up and out of your sense of self and who you are. And then when you've been ungrounded for so long, you're kind of like floating aloft, just, very lofty emotionally. Even if that lofty place is a very low vibration, you begin to feel disassociated with certain things. He says certain people, even certain emotions you disconnect from, and you have a hard time associating with those emotions or to those emotions. And so he says, first and foremost, do whatever you can to ground yourself. Now, of course, the easiest thing is to walk outside barefoot. That's great. But he says get deeper. He says dig a little bit deeper than that. If you're somebody who loves to go kayaking, do that. If you're somebody who loves to paint your toes, he says do that. Whatever it is that you like to do that defines you, you need to really make time to do that, because it's going to align you back into you. So, and then also he says just get your hands on as much as you can about being an empath, because being an empath, like when you are easily affected by your environment, you can experience and have mood swings that you're like, well, I don't understand, and then it's hard to get out of that. It's hard to get back to that sense of normal when you're not grounded. So he's really just trying to connect the dots for you here with being grounded and how being an empath affects that. It's kind of like he keeps showing me like a tree being pulled up out of the ground, the roots and all, and it's just floating up around and just kind of being influenced by the wind. And for you, the wind, being your environment and the other people that you're around. And then after so long, it's like you can't even find, the space in the ground where you came from. So he says
that
you really
got more sense than you even know. Yeah.
So is there a chemical type form of depression here, Erik? Or are you saying no?
He says right now no, but we're getting close. So he's like, this is why I want you to. He's like, I mean it. If you have to call off work tomorrow, do it. He's like, but just take time to, really connect to you and what you like and define yourself again. He says, because what can actually happen is if you are at that low vibration for a long period of time, chemical imbalance does begin to occur, because there's, he's talking about like dopamine and serotonin and those things.
Right.
So he says, find what it is that makes you you. If you like to knit or, paint, listen to music, take a walk, he says, he's actually saying, please take time to do that, because you'll begin, your roots will begin to find their place again. You'll begin to anchor back down into who you are, and then in that realignment and kind of solidifying yourself, he says you'll have a stronger grasp on your emotions, identifying them and dealing with them. Whereas right now I feel like your emotions kind of, don't take this the wrong way, this is just Erik's wording, but he makes me feel like they own you.
They own me. I'm completely controlled.
Yeah, and he says you want it to be the other way around.
Okay.
So,
I bought a horse because that's what I love to do. And just a very, very quick Erik thing. After I first read the first book, I don't know if it was which book it was, I was riding my horse, and I'm like, okay, Erik, I want a sign, I want a prank. And I said, if you're here, I want to see a deer. And the first day, it didn't happen. So I said, you know what? I'm not giving up. The second day, I said, this is it. I'm not going to try again. I'm like, okay, Erik, if you're around, I want to see. And 5 deer, I kid you not, 5 deer, and this was not usual, came and ran out in front of me. And one of them was black.
Whoa.
That's what I didn't feel was Erik. But
you know what that represents? Can I just interrupt you for a second? Do you know what that represents?
Yeah.
Like,
What?
I'm sure maybe some of you listeners, too, have heard, if you get a fish tank with goldfish, it's great for feng shui, but you're supposed to have one black fish in there because it keeps you grounded.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's
that
crazy.
Erik was trying to tell
I
you
told
then to be
everyone I
grounded.
knew who. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
that is so
well,
cool.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much.
calling.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you for calling. What an
All
awesome
right. Bye,
story.
guys. Bye.
Very. Oh. So
Man,
that is
that's
so
cool.
cool. He had already been trying to reach her to
To
get
tell her
to
she needs
ground herself.
grounded.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Man,
All right,
I have
let's go
chills
to
on the right
somebody
side of my body.
Uh-oh. That's probably Erik.
Yeah, for sure.
We got somebody from the 801 area code. Hi, how are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm on air. I'm doing great.
Awesome. I'm glad you are. What's your name?
Oh, I'm Chris, and I'm from Utah.
Oh, hi, Chris from Utah. What you got for us?
Oh, well, I'm just wondering, does Erik, I know he's part of my spirit guide family, so I'm just wondering if him or my spirit guides have any message. Is there something they would like me to know or that they're trying to tell me?
Great question.
Ooh, yeah, this is a good question. Erik is, just because I have such a solid connection with Erik, he's going to translate for your team, but this is coming through, I guess Erik being a part of your team. He says, I guess right now the biggest thing to work on is accepting self-image and being able to be truthful in your image to others. I have no idea what that means to you, but being able to express yourself authentically to others or be truthful to others about who you are. So even if it's like, you got a new job and you're like, oh, I just don't know if I should tell anybody where I'm working, or I don't know if I want to share that yet. The big message here is all about expressing yourself and being truthful to who you are, honoring your true self. So with that being said, Erik is making it a point to point out your throat chakra and your heart chakra. I don't know if you're even aware of the chakras, but these two in specific, he says, you look good, bud. Chakras look great. Everything's in line. We're good to go. Focus on these two, he says, and just pointing to the heart and the throat. So know that, I guess right now, just as far as timing, from your guides, it's important that you be truthful in who you are and honor yourself. Do you see what I mean? Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does.
I think everybody should ask a question like this. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks,
I'm
for
so
calling.
Well, thank you so much. I do want to make sure everyone else gets a chance. So thank you so much, Erik. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Kim. You guys are amazing. I'm definitely going to work on that. Those shots.
Chris,
you're so welcome.
You're so
Thanks
sweet,
for
Chris.
calling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. I want to remind everybody, as I am supposed to dutifully do, is that we are here because of liveparanormal.com. They're letting us use their network to bring Erik to you. So I'm stoked. This looks like an international call. Let's check it out.
Ooh.
I've got Erik. Well, I don't even know what the area code is. 44752, and I won't go on. Hi, how are you doing?
Woo! Is that me?
That's you. Where are you calling from?
Oh, damn! It's amazing. I'm calling from London, in the UK.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
I'm not a real
Awesome.
Londoner. I'm Portuguese, but anyways, yeah, really cool. Oh, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody. This is like an amazing opportunity. Blah, blah, blah. You know it. Much love for everybody, for all the callers who suffer way more than I do. I'm just a wimp compared to most of the calls you hear here. Anyways, to make it quick, first of all, I'd like to ask Erik if he could bring my higher self forward so he can say something.
I love this one.
Say what's up.
I love this one.
Absolutely. Do you have a specific question in mind from your higher self?
My life is kind of in a funny situation. Maybe I'm wondering if I'm not taking the opportunities I'm being given. Maybe, I don't know, to raise my consciousness. Maybe I'm not taking the right path, the right options. So, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Just based on your request, Erik brings forward your higher self, and I'm just going to refer to your higher self as he and him, rather than ask for a name.
Okay.
This is what I keep hearing. It's important for you to know that there's no wrong path. There's no wrong choices. I did the wrong things. I'm not on the right path, and I'm not taking opportunities. What's more important for you to realize, again, this is coming from your higher self. What's more important for you to realize is that there's value and purpose in every experience, meaning even though some of it may not be easy, may not be pleasant, may even be confusing, there's still growth happening, and that's what's important for you to focus on rather than looking elsewhere and thinking, where else am I supposed to be? What else am I supposed to be doing? It's
great.
really important for you to center back into what you're experiencing now and take from that whatever you can to apply it to yourself in growth, to be able to allow yourself to grow. So part of that is letting go of the past, your higher self says, in order to move forward, because you often look back and think, how could I have done that differently? Was I supposed to do it like this? Was I supposed to take that opportunity versus this opportunity? And so there's a lot of self-doubt there that I'm hearing, picking up on. So it's important for you, instead of asking yourself if you're on the right path, you're always experiencing what you're supposed to. So taking that concept away from this is probably the most important thing, I think. Oftentimes people get caught up in that thought process, I was on the wrong path for a long time, but actually there's purpose in that. You were supposed to, observe yourself through that, even though it can be hard sometimes, learn from what you went through. But I don't think we're supposed to think along those lines of I'm on the wrong path, I made the wrong decisions, or I didn't take the right opportunities.
So what should he do, his higher self? But besides alter that thought process?
Anchor in, this is what I'm hearing, anchor in self-esteem, confidence. There's a lot of struggle with self-confidence, self-esteem, believing in self. And then,
well, how did you do that?
Less doubt. Again, this kind of goes back to that difficult thing that's so hard for so many of us is trusting self. Again, you must really struggle with self-doubt, like second-guessing yourself a lot, because I feel like this is a redundant cycle, like something that keeps happening, and it's like you're not even capable of making decisions without like second-guessing yourself in those moments. Like I feel like you experience a lot of indecisiveness. Like it's even just hard for you to make decisions because you just
sometimes it's just like even with continuing just the process. If I begin, for example, to write a song or something, I always second doubt myself. I always question, is this worth it? Am I doing the right thing?
So what should he do to not do that? I mean, that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Does he say a mantra? I believe in myself. I believe in myself. What can he do that's practical?
Yeah, he says the mantra is great, but you have to believe it when you say it. You have to energetically align with it. But he says, I guess what would be easier is to get creative. Get creative outside of your go outside the box. Even if you're already creative in different aspects, get creative, because when you allow yourself to be creative, you're naturally aligning with your self-confidence, your center for creativity.
Cool.
So in any way, shape, or form that you can get creative, do so, he says, and work on your confidence.
Okay.
He says, I can relate. Erik says, I can relate, so I will help you with this. He says, I will help you find that
that's
feeling
great. Fantastic.
and identify it. Yeah.
Okay, I just have like one little quick question for Erik this time. I have a friend. He's a great person. He's a very wise person. It's not normal to find a person like him. He's called Francisco, but he's very skeptic. He's very rational and skeptic. I was wondering if maybe you could give me something that I could say to him to make him like think like, what did you say? Or something just to mess with him a bit. My intention is good. I don't want to, because we're very friendly to each other. It's just
Yeah.
Erik says, well, he says you can't force anyone to move outside of their skepticism. We were kind of talking about that in the earlier part of the show. He says, so if you want to help somebody move outside of their skepticism, he says, I can show up. You can tell them about me, and I can show up. I can, pull pranks on them. But you can't force anybody outside of that. They have to be able to navigate that naturally in order to actually experience something. So even if you were to say something that kind of made him like, what? He said it's not going to be an authentic experience. You have to allow him to experience it naturally.
Yeah, true.
So prank him. Prank Francisco. Do something crazy and wild.
He says, just make him aware of who I am. Just tell him to jump on my blog, and I promise. That way he has the awareness of who Erik is, and he says, I promise I will make my presence known, and he will know it's me.
Okay.
I would be worried if I was that guy.
Thank you very much, everybody.
I would be worried, too. All right, well, thank you.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much
thanks for the opportunity. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Bye. All right, let's see if we can. We're going to have to make this kind of a short one, so I hope whoever I'm, talking to now will make it a quick question. 205 area code. How are you doing? Are you there?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Hi there. We only have like 3 minutes left in the show, so I hope your question is kind of short. I hate to be so blunt, but who am I speaking with?
This is Pooja. I'm from Alabama.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So what question do you have for Erik?
First of all, I want to thank all of you, and thank you for doing this work. What I wanted to ask was, what am I here to learn in this?
Ooh.
Or teach. Maybe you're here to teach something, too.
Yeah, Erik he's calling you out. He says you're here to learn patience. He says you're someone who likes instant gratification, and sometimes that tangibility to the gratification isn't going to be instant. So he says you're here to find ways to learn patience, waiting skills, learning about yourself in those times. In those time frames when you're having to be patient, no matter what it is you're going through, reflecting on yourself. And I can very much relate to this because I am the same type of person. So he's saying to you, in those moments where you're forced to be patient, or even you're not patient, finding yourself in those moments and listening to yourself is going to be important because when we rush through things, we often obviously have to learn the hard way and go and do things over. So finding time, he's also saying it's important for you to take time to slow down, and he keeps patting his hands downwards. So slow down, take things slowly, and just allow yourself to process, no matter what it is. He says, but if I were to put it short and sweet, he says, instant gratification is not all it's cracked up to be. So work on slowing down and work on achieving patience. So I hope that didn't sound like such a bad lecture, the way it felt coming through, because it felt like, bam, that was a lecture.
Oh, you're just projecting, Kim, because it's probably a lesson for me and you both.
Probably. I tell you what, because I definitely can identify with that. Oh gosh, but he says it's really important that you take time to listen to yourself through those moments. Like, why is it so uncomfortable to be patient? Why is it so uncomfortable to wait? Ask yourself that and take time to process that, he says.
That's good advice. Well, I think we're going to have to close the show at this point. Thank you so much for calling.
Yes,
thank
thanks
you
for calling.
Thank you all the callers, too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, as we close, I just want to remind you guys to check out Erik's book, My Life After Death. It's just a page-turner. You guys will like it. It will change your life. You want to know everything about what death is going to be like for you and what your afterlife is going to be like and what it's going to be like for you to be a spirit or how that all plays out for your loved one, then please check it out. And I hope you guys can join us on our tour to 8 cities. That whole thing, the whole description of that and the dates and cities are on the blog. And, go to the blog, Channeling Erik, ericwithak.com. Just check it out. And, again, Kim, you can find out all about her and her wonderful services at kimbabcock.net, KIMBABCOCK.net.
That's right.
So, guys, until Thursday after next, because guess what? Kim and I are going on vacay. I'm
going on vacation.
I'm going, believe it or not, to a wedding of a blog member who has been with us for a long time, and it's all the way in Ireland. The connections that have been formed.
Are you going to post pictures and videos on the blog? Because I will be dying to see it.
I hope so, but the connections that have been formed between blog members and between me and other blog members, it's just been amazing. People have become fast friends across the world, and it's kind of cool.
Awesome. I hope to see pictures.
All right, everybody. I love everybody. I love you so much, Erik. Come and prank me a little bit. I miss you so much.
He says, I love you, Mom. He says, I'll be there. He says, I love you guys. Thank you for listening, and keep listening for me. He says, listen to your hearts, and I'll be there. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys, and until Thursday after next. Bye.
Yep.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. Bye, guys. Take it easy.
Bye.